Hello, welcome to this free immigration help channel. Today in this video I wanted to show you how to fill out the petition for alien relative. And as always, we will be going to our official uscis.gov website. The link is in the description below. Just a quick advice, if anything related to immigration, always go to uscis.gov. This is the main website of US Citizenship and Immigration Services. There is no more updated or better information anywhere else but that website, so we always want to start there. So what we need to do is, obviously, we go to our website, and if you click on forms, the third one down, it's one of the more popular forms that people use, so it's really on the top of the list. You can find it here, or you can just go to forms and find the form number I-130, and it's a petition for alien relative. And if you go here, if you go into this form, to the page of this form, you will notice that there is an option to file online. Now in this video I will show you how to fill out a paper application. But if you want to do it online, you can definitely do it. For that, you have to create an account with USCIS. It's very simple to do. All you really need to do is just click on it, and on this page, on the sign-in page, you just have to click on create an account and just follow all the information, all the prompts. Now the paper application that we are going to be filling up in this video is very identical to what you will be filling out online. So if you watch this video, it will definitely help you how to do the online application. And the process works pretty much the same way. The only difference is with the paper application, which you can definitely do as well if that's what you prefer, which I would prefer myself to do that first and then file everything, because you still have to file paperwork. You still have to physically mail it. You need to, depending on who you're filing for, you will need to mail things like birth certificates, some marriage certificates, for example, and those things you do need to mail. So you can mail your application with all of the evidence, or you can fill your application online and then mail everything separately. So whichever way you prefer, really doesn't matter, whichever works best for you. So this is where you can find, obviously you probably already know, if you are a citizen or a permanent resident in United States of America, and you want to help your relative establish a relationship for whoever wishes to immigrate in the United States, and the eligible relatives are parents, mother, father, your children, your spouse, your brother, sister. And if you want to bring those relatives to the United States, if you want to bring them and help them immigrate, you need to fill out. That's what the I-130 is for. Now the I-130, you have to fill out individually for each person who wants to immigrate. So let's say if you're doing for both parents, you would have to do one for your mother and separately another one for your father. It's going to be two different processes. Just keep in mind. Now the application form itself is pretty straightforward. It's only 12 pages, nothing too complicated. Currently we have the edition of the application form from February 13, 2019. So don't be surprised if something is a little bit different on what you're seeing now compared to this video, because immigration services, they do upgrade stuff. Now whenever you're filing paper, right, you will see there will be several different addresses. So depending on which state you live in, we will talk about it where to actually file, right? And obviously for different categories, if you can see, if you reside outside of United States, there are certain things you need to do. And if you're a United States citizen and you are outside of United States, there are other things you need to do. So all of those different things we need to keep in mind. Currently, the filing fee for the application form is $535. So keep that in mind. Again, if you're filing it for, let's say, both of your parents, you'll have to separately do one for your mother, separately do one for your father, and obviously for each application you'll have to pay $535. Now, very nicely, USCIS, they do a very good job to make everything very easy, very straightforward. They do provide a checklist of things that you need to do. I would recommend going over it briefly so that you have an idea of what you need. While you're filling out the application, all that stuff, you can also think about, okay, I need this marriage certificate, I need this birth certificate, and stuff like that. And you will notice for different, I would say, types of relatives, right? If it's for children, you would need different documents. If it's for a spouse, you would need other different documents. For example, you know, if you will also need your own documents too to show that, you know, you are a U.S. citizen or you are a permanent resident, to prove your own status, and stuff like that. Now, special instructions we have: you must file a separate form I-130 for each eligible relatives unless they can be considered a derivative beneficiary. See the form instruction for more information. We're gonna get to the instruction after that. So again, each eligible relative. If petition for a spouse, you must also submit a form I-130A, supplemental information for spouse beneficiary. Now, I'll do a separate video for that, but just to keep in mind, you know, you do need to provide that form separately. You can also elect to receive an email or text message updates whenever the form is accepted. I do highly recommend for you to do that. It's really nice, you know, because you can go if you have the receipt number, you can always go to uscis.gov and check the status of your application, but it is really nice to have those updates just coming straight to your phone and you just knowing right away whenever something is updated, whenever something happens. Now, obviously, without saying, but just to mention, do not include anything with your evidence, right? With the physical materials like CDs and stuff with chips. Don't do that. Obviously, no biological genetic samples, DNA evidence. Don't do that. And of course, you know, graphic photos of childbirth or intimate relations as evidence, right? No pornography. Don't do that. All right. So, you know, they had to mention it, obviously, because probably somebody already did it. You know, they wouldn't mention it if it wasn't the case. So don't do that. Okay, so before we start with the application, I always recommend, this is the first thing we want to do. Don't go to the form I-130. Go to the instructions for form I-130 first. This is what we want to start with. And let's open it up. I think I already have it open somewhere, but maybe not. Here it is. So the instructions is where you want to start. Read through the instructions. It's not too much information. It's only 12 pages, but you do want to definitely read through it. Just everything. Everything that is written here, read through it, because you don't want to start doing something in the application without, you know, missing something. You know, if you miss one thing, it's really not that huge of a deal, because if you send your application and something is not up to a standard for USCIS, obviously the worst thing that can happen, they will deny. It's bad, obviously. But most of the times what they do is they just send all your application package back to you and say, with the instructions saying, okay, we need you to correct this, we need you to correct that. That's what happens most of the times. And I've seen it pretty much 90% of applications that are being sent. Mine too was in those 90%. They are returned with the things, okay, you need to fix this, you need to fix that. And those fixes most of the times are very silly things that if you just read the instructions, you would have avoided that. Now again, it's not a big deal. All you need to do is make those fixes and send everything back and it will be accepted. But for them to get it about a week, for them to check everything about 2 weeks, for them to send you your application another week, and then you sending it back again another week. So like 5-6 weeks, 2 months, you're really just wasting when you could have spent 10 minutes reading the instructions. So let's go over the instructions very quickly, very briefly. Now, who may file Form I-130? Obviously, you already know. If you are a U.S. citizen, you may file a separate Form I-130 for each eligible relative. You may file Form I-130 for your spouse, your unmarried children under 21 years of age, your unmarried sons or daughters 21 years of age or older, your married sons or daughters of any age, your brothers or sisters, you must be 21 years of age or older, and your mother or father, you must be 21 years of age or older. Okay, that's if you are U.S. citizen. Now, if you are a lawful permanent resident of the United States, again, you must file a separate Form I-130 for each eligible relative, but your choices now are a bit limited. You can only file for your spouse, your unmarried child under 21 years of age, and your unmarried son or daughter 21 years of age or older. So less options. As you can see, you can't file for your parents, you can't file for your brothers, sisters, but your spouse and your children, you can. Alright, so a few things to note. If you're filing for your spouse, he or she must complete and sign Form I-130A. So it's for them. If you're filing for your spouse, it's their responsibility to do that I-130A. So if you are going with it, it's a supplemental information for spouse beneficiary. Make sure they do it. If your spouse is overseas, Form I-130A must still be completed, but your spouse does not have to sign Form I-130A. Form I-130A must be submitted with Form I-130. So it's a very important thing to keep in mind here. If your spouse is present here and you're filing the petition for them, they need to sign the Form I-130A and send it. If they're not here, obviously they cannot sign it. Well, I mean, they can sign it, but it's USAS, they take things like this into consideration so that you don't have to send them a form or they sign a form there and then they mail you a form or stuff like that. You can just do it on their behalf, which is a very nice thing that USAS did. They kind of allowed that to be done, right? So you can do that on the behalf of your spouse if they're not in the United States. Keep in mind though, if it's for the spouse, I-130A definitely must be submitted with Form I-130. Okay, so there is no visa category for married children of lawful permanent residents. Alright, if you are a lawful permanent resident and you file Form I-130 for your unmarried son or daughter, but your son or daughter marries before immigrating to the United States or adjusting status to lawful permanent resident, we will deny or automatically revoke your petition. Just something to keep in mind. Non-citizen U.S. nationals, have the same rights as lawful permanent residents to petition for family members. If you are a U.S. national born in American Samoa or Swiss Island, alright, if that applies for you, you should indicate in Part 2. Alright. If the beneficiary qualifies under item 1C, 1D, 1E above, you are required to file separate petitions for the beneficiary's spouse or unmarried children. If you are the lawful permanent resident petitioner and the beneficiary qualifies under items 2A, 2B, 2C above, you are not required to file separate petition. Alright. Now that's good to know. So, if you are a lawful permanent resident petitioner and the beneficiary qualifies under 2A, 2B, or 2C, which is 2A, your spouse, 2B, your unmarried children, or 2C, your unmarried son, daughter, above, you are not required to file separate petitions for the beneficiary's unmarried children under 21 years of age. And that's really nice to know because if your family, you're filing for them, right? For your spouse and your children. And if children are under 21 years of age, you don't need separate applications, which is very nice. They're considered derivative. beneficiaries, and you should list them in part 4 of this petition. So derivative beneficiaries, you don't have to worry about filing another separate application for them. Now, the derivative beneficiaries described in 4 and 5 above may apply for an immigrant visa along with the beneficiary. Obviously, makes sense. Now, who may not file Form I-130? You may not file Form I-130 for a petition in the following categories: an adoptive parent or adopted child, a natural parent if you gain lawful permanent resident status or U.S. citizenship through adoption or a special immigrant juvenile, a step-parent or stepchild if the marriage that created the relationship took place. And then it goes and goes and goes. Obviously, a grandparent, grandchild, nephew. There are a few of them. Make sure you read through all of these and make sure that these do not apply to you before going. Because if they do, then obviously you need to rethink and reconsider things. Alright, so general instructions. USCIS provides forms free of charge on the USCIS website. I said that many times. Don't try to find these forms and these instructions anywhere else. The website that you're using ends with GOV, which stands for government or governmental website. It's provided by the government. Don't go to third parties. There are a lot of companies out there. Some are, legal representatives, immigration attorneys. Fine, they just want to make money. But there are a lot of scam websites out there as well. Don't use any of those. Use directly stuff from USCIS. Okay, so phone numbers are here. If you have any questions, obviously signature, everybody has to sign it, unless your spouse who's not here. I-138, you don't have to sign it. You have an exception. Filing fee. Each petition must be accompanied by the appropriate filing fee. And what is the filing fee section? We're going to talk about the instructions of how much. We already said $535 if I remember correctly, and then obviously how to pay. And most of the times it's just a check, so nothing crazy there. And then there is the biometric service fee. Sometimes it's already included in the application. Again, we will see if there is a biometric service fee for this particular one. Now, the evidence we're going to talk about, what is needed. Biometric services appointment. You might be called, most likely you will be, after you file this biometrics appointment. If you don't know what it is, it's a fingerprint, taking a picture, and then as a specifically part of I-130 process, you do have to provide sworn statement saying that yes, I do swear that everything is provided here, and you will see. We'll talk about it later. Obviously, translations, some documents. If you have a document, obviously, you're filing a petition for someone that is not in the United States, and the language of her documents might be not in English. Obviously, in that cases, definitely do a translation, and you can get a certified translation. It's highly recommended. Basically, you need to find a person who understands the language, both that net language of that country that the document is in and English language, and then they actually write their certification. They say, I blah 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 name certify that I speak English and I speak this language, and I certify that everything that is in this translation is a correct translation of the whatever document. And then they sign that certification in front of the notary, who then notarizes the signature of the translator. And that is what certified translation is. So keep in mind, if you do need a translation, this is the best way to do it. Certified notarized translation. Can't go wrong with that. Okay, how to fill out Form I-130. This is where you want to start paying attention. Okay, black ink if you're filling out paper application like we're going to be doing in this case. Black ink. But you can also print, obviously, type, right? Because let's open our application. Here it is. And as you can see here, some of the fields you can fill out. For example, John Lee Doe. All right. You can fill out some of the fields. Now, not all of them But most of them, for example, this one, you can't fill anything. So, my recommendation, the best way to go about it, not to create any confusion, you know, we all have different handwritings. I have a terrible handwriting myself. Type everything you can on the application in the electronic format like that, a PDF, just download a PDF, Adobe Reader or whatever, so that you can open PDF documents, fill it out, and then print it. And then after you print it, if you still need to fill up some things that you weren't able, like for example this field right here, just write it in nicely with a black ink. And then obviously you will have to sign it yourself at the very end of the application. Not the interpreter, there, petitioner's signature. You can't do obviously anything here because we can't sign it on the computer. Print it out and then sign it with black ink. Okay, that hopefully that is understandable. It's very important because you can technically fill out, just print out blank application form and fill it out yourself, but I just cannot tell you how many times I've seen people getting their documents with mistakes in their names, in their addresses, in their whatever. You know, you can't really blame USCIS for it and the immigration officers because they have thousands of these applications and they go through them. And sometimes things that you just, especially with different names, right? You know, you have different names from different countries that don't sound familiar for people here, and whenever they do their processing, they make mistakes. So make it as easy for them as possible. All right, let's get back to our instructions. If you need extra space to complete any item within this petition, use the space provided in Part 9, and you will see the Part 9, there are just bunch of blank, Part 9, bunch of blank. So you just fill out the page number, part number, and item number, and then you fill up that information here, whatever stuff that wasn't enough for you. Okay. Answer all questions fully and accurately. If a question does not apply to you, for example, if you have never been married and the question asked provide the name of your current spouse, type or print not applicable. It is very, very important. How many times I've seen applications being returned and not accepted because there was one or two fields that were just left blank. Don't leave any blank fields except for where it says for USCIS use only, obviously this whole area, and for the attorney, obviously you can leave that. Just don't type anything here. This starting from here is for you. But if you don't have a middle name, don't leave this blank. Put NA. It is very important because trust me, your application will be returned if you have blank fields. Okay, let's go back to instructions. Let's see. Enter dates in months first, day, year format. Now, a lot of people, you don't have to say that, but like for example in the country where I'm originally from, where I was born and raised, we use day, months, year first. So for me that's definitely good to know, right? So definitely months, day, year in the application. USCIS online account number. If you have created your online account for filing online, you will have that online account number. Use that. You can put that in there. Now biographic information. Obviously, you know, you're providing your ethnicity, race, height, weight, eye color, hair, all that stuff. Now form I-94. I-94 is that white card. I do not think that Customs Border Patrol, they still give out those cards on your passport. I think it's all electronic now. So some people have them from years and years ago, but a lot of people don't. So if you don't have that and you need it, you can definitely pull it up here from this website. It's cbp.gov/I-94. All right, just in case if you need that. Basically, that's just a card that says that you entered the country, right? It shows the date and all of that sort of stuff, your visa information, your entry visa for how long, stuff like that. All right, petitioner statement, contact information, declaration, and signature. Select the appropriate box to indicate whether you read this petition yourself or whether you had an interpreter assisting you. So if you had somebody translating this for you, make sure you mention that. And if that's the case, then the interpreter, they need to provide their contact information, certification, and signature as well. Contact information, make sure to provide an updated one. Make sure if you don't have a stable phone number, if you don't have a stable address, make sure you do that with someone who is or has a stable phone number and where you can be reached, right? Because you don't want to miss things from USCIS. We recommend that you print or save a copy of your completed petition to review in the future. Now, I say that all the time. Everything that you file, make a copy of everything in the same order that you filed and keep it for yourself. Very, very important. Okay, so general requirements. Does approval of this petition mean that my family member is automatically a lawful permanent resident? No, obviously not. This is just a start of the process. It's not the end of it. When will visa become available for spouses and unmarried children under 21? Because these are the immediate relatives, it means it's available immediately for them. But unfortunately for other categories like parents and brothers, sisters, it takes time, and there are wait periods that they need to go through because they are issued these visas based on the availability visa. The United States, they give a certain amount of visas every year, and the people just wait in line basically whenever that visa opens up. Okay, what documents do you need to show that you are a US citizen? In case if you are a US citizen, a copy of your birth certificate will do, a copy of your naturalization certificate in case if you weren't born here but was naturalized. That's what you will have, a naturalization certificate. A copy of Form FS 240 consular report of birth abroad, in case you were born abroad. A copy of your unexpired US passport. If you have got one, you can provide that. An original statement from US consular officer verifying that you are a US citizen with a valid passport. Now, if you do not have any of the above documents, and you were born in the United States, see what if an official document is not available section of these instructions. Now, I will do a separate video on that, but most of the times if you were born in the United States and you don't have a birth certificate or a passport, you can file online most of the times, depending on which state you were born in. You can request a copy of your birth certificate, an original. It's an original copy basically of your birth certificate, so that will definitely do. Now, what documents do you need to show that you are a lawful permanent resident? Obviously, you're gonna have your permanent residence card, green card in other terms. You can provide that. Now, what documents do you need to prove family relationship? Now, obviously, like I said, it's in case of a spouse. If it's a spouse, obviously you're gonna have a marriage certificate copy. Make sure you provide copies. If either you were or your spouse was previously married, submit copies of documents showing that each of the prior marriages was legally terminated. Very important. You must submit 2 identical color passport style photographs of yourself and your spouse, taken within 30 days of filing this petition. The photos must have a white to off-white background, be printed on thin paper, and be 2 by 2. Now, all of these instructions are here on the page between 6 and 7. Make sure to go through them. In addition to the required document list above, you should submit one or more of the following types. Documentation showing joint ownership of property, a lease showing joint tenancy, documentation showing that you and your spouse have combined your financial resources, birth certificate of children, a few other ones, basically to establish that this is a legitimate marriage. It's not just some, because really people do abuse the system. They do bad things. They do these marriages for money, and they one side pays money to the other side to get these documents and all of that sort of stuff. So these documents right here, they are proof to show that it's a legitimate marriage, because whenever you're legitimately married, you have this joint property, you have this common residence, same address, right? You have combined financial resources, maybe you have children together and stuff like that. Okay, a child and you are the mother. Submit a copy of the child's birth certificate showing your name and the name of your child. That's in case if you're filing for children. If you're filing for brother or sister, submit a copy of your birth certificate and your copy of your brother or sister's birth certificate showing that you have at least one common parent. Obviously, makes sense. Now, for your mother or father, submit a copy of your birth certificate showing your name and your mother's name. Now, for fathers, the same thing. Also submit a copy of your parents' marriage certificate establishing that your father was married to your mother. So a little bit more complicated for father for some reason. Okay. And then we have instructions for stepfather, adoptive parent, and stuff like that. Now, what if a name has changed? If there was a name change, in case of marriage, you never know, or as a naturalization happens, if either you or the person you're filing for is using a name that is not the same name shown on the relevant document, you must file your petition with copies of the legal documents reflecting the name change, which would be court document showing the name change, and obviously a few other documents like driver's license with the new name, passport with the new name, and naturalization certificate with new name and stuff like that. Okay, if an official document is not available, happens sometimes, you can still give some records. It can be a religious record, a copy of a document bearing the seal of religious organization showing that the baptism, dedication, or comparable rite occurred within 2 months after birth, showing the date and place of the child's birth, right? So you can still figure out the ways to come up with documents. School record, census record, stuff like that. Okay, go through that again. Make sure you read it. Make sure you know everything. Make sure you're familiar. What is the filing fee? Now, the filing fee, like I said, is $535. Now, some petitions, some application forms, you can do a waiver. In this case, you can't. There is no way to waive that $535. The filing fee is not refundable, regardless of any action USCIS takes on this petition. Do not mail cash. Somebody already did. You must submit all fees in the exact amounts. Make sure. Now, use the following guidelines when you prepare your check or money order for the Form I-130. So you can either do a check or a money order. The check or money order must be drawn on a bank or other financial institution located in the United States and must be payable in U.S. currency. And make the check or money order payable to U.S. Department of Homeland Security. So if you're filing a check, this is who you're going to be paying to. Spell out U.S. Department of Homeland Security. Do not use the initials like U.S. DHS or DHS. Don't do that. Spell it out. If you live outside the United States, contact the nearest U.S. Embassy or U.S. Consulate for instructions on the method of payment. Okay, so for us guys, you would have to figure out with the embassy. Okay, so notice to those making payments by check, if you send us a check, US will convert it into the electronic funds, transfer EFT. This means we will copy your check and use the account information on it to electronically debit your account. And it's usually within 24 hours before it reflects on the bank. Just small little details. Now, how to check if the fees are correct? Visit the USCIS.gov, select forms, and then make sure. Do it. Definitely do it, because I'm doing this video now in November 2019. You never know. In 3 months, in 6 months, they might change. It might become cheaper. It might become more expensive. Make sure you are filing it the right way. So, where to file? Now, they say visit I-130 page, which is this page right here. Where to file, and we have our instructions here. So, if you reside in the United States, file at the Chicago, Dallas, or Phoenix lockbox, depending on where you live and whether your relatives is also concurrently filing Form I-485. Now, that's application to register permanent residence. For complete list of addresses, visit our direct filing addresses for Form I-130. So this is the main page that you will need to find out the address where to file. And here it is. It's pretty straightforward. For example, in my case would have been, right, I am filing a standalone Form I-130. Yes, that's what I'm doing. And I live in Florida. Let's see, where is Florida? Florida. Okay, so this is for me. This box is for me right here. Mail your application to USCIS Phoenix logbox. So I'm sending it to Arizona. And this is it. For FedEx, UPS, and DHL deliveries, you can file it. You have to file it here. This is for USPS, for US Postal Service. Now, guys, I highly recommend you sending it with USPS, with US Postal Service. Do not send it with FedEx, UPS, DHL. Now, I know people do send it with FedEx, UPS, and it's fine as long as you send it to this address, but I recommend sticking with the USPS. In my experience, it was much more reliable compared to FedEx, UPS. So this is the address I would use. I live in Florida. This is the address I would use if I was sending with USPS. Okay, makes sense. Let's get back with this. Address change. In case if you file the application and you do need to change your address, you can definitely do so at uscis.gov address change. Nothing crazy here. Now, processing information, initial processing. Once USCIS accepts your petition, we will check it for completeness. If you do not completely fill out this petition, like I said, you will not establish a basis for your eligibility. So make sure you fill it out. Request for more information, they might do it. Request for interview, they might do it. Decision. The decision on on the Form I-130 involves a determination of whether you have established eligibility. Makes sense. All right, if you have any questions, again, you can call them directly. Make sure to read through everything, and they do attach a really good checklist here to kind of help you. All right, so once you're done reading the application instructions, now we can go to the actual application. Now that we've read the instructions, filling out this application will be very easy, very straightforward. Make sure not to fill out anything here because this is for USCIS use only. This particular one right here is for an attorney or legal representative if you have one. Form G28 is for attorneys to fill out and all of that information. So if you don't have an attorney, just start right here below. So the number one very important thing, obviously, your relationship to the beneficiary for who you are filing. And you are the petitioner and your relative is the beneficiary. So let's say in my example, right, let's do brother, sister, for example. Now, if you are filing this petition for your child or parent, select the box that describes your relationship. Select only one box. None of that I'm selecting, not for me. If your beneficiary is your brother, sister, are you related by adoption? No. If you gain lawful permanent resident status or citizenship through adoption? No. All right, now alien registration number. If you were born here in the United States and you're probably not going to have that alien registration number, but if you went through an immigration process, you will, and starts with the letter A, and then I believe 6 digits or 7 digits. Make sure to fill that out. Again, if you have created USCIS online account, you can definitely enter here. US Social Security. If you have that, fill it out. Now, your full name information, filling it out. If you don't have a middle name, make sure to put a name. Very important. Other names, if any. So if you have a new legal name, put it here. If you obviously it's a new name, so obviously it means you have an old name. If you do have old names, make sure to put it here. Very important. It's very important that you use them. If not, then just put NA, NA, and A. You get the point. A. There we go. Now, city, town, village of birth, country of birth, understandable. Mailing address, understandable. Address history, all your addresses, beforehand. So address 1, after this one, then address 2. Most recent addresses, make sure to fill it up. Your marital information, if you're married, separated, divorced, make sure to fill it up here as well. Information still continues about you, date of current marriage, place of your current marriage, names of all your spouses, if you have many of them, you never know. Here there are for 2. If you have more than 2, don't worry about it. I mean, I would worry about it, but not in the case of filling up this application, because if you do have more than 2, you can go down here and then add additional spouses if you have more. Okay, so done with that. Very straightforward, nothing really crazy here. After we're done with the spouses, we go on the information about your parents. Just fill it up, nothing crazy here. Still information about you. A petitioner is you. Who are you? Are you a U.S. citizen? Are you a lawful permanent resident? Only one box, obviously, U.S. citizen. If you are a U.S. citizen, complete 37. My citizenship was acquired through birth in the United States, or naturalization, or parents. Now, in my case, would be naturalization. And I am, for example, for some reason not able to select this here, which is fine. Just make a note that you are not able to select something here, and whenever you print it out, make sure to go back and select it. It's very, very important. Have you obtained a certificate of naturalization or a certificate of citizenship? Yes. All right. And then if you did, here certificate number and place of issuance. Again, you can see these fields. They're white fields. There's gray fields you can fill up. White fields you can't. Make sure once you print it out to go back and fill them up. Don't forget about them. Very important. Okay, so we still go about the information about you if you're a lawful permanent resident. Some information here for you to fill up. Then your employment history, then your biographic information, which is ethnicity, race, height, weight. Make sure to fill all of that up. Biographic information, hair color, bald, if no hair, brown. In my case, probably brown, mixed between brown and black. But select only one box. Don't play with it. And then finally we get to the part number 4, which is the information about your beneficiary. Again, here we start with alien registration number if they have one. USA's online account, just your U.S. Social Security number if they do have one. Full name, other names, other information about your beneficiary, where they were born, physical address, other addresses, very much similar to what you had to fill up about yourself. Telephone number, email address, marital information, place of beneficiary's current marriage, names of beneficiaries' spouses, same thing. Information about beneficiary's family, so mother, father, kids, right? Information about your beneficiary continues, person 5, so all the children, all the parents. Beneficiary's entry information. Was the beneficiary ever in the United States? Yes, no. For example, no. Or if yes, then definitely put class of admission, which you can select here below. Let's say, for example, a tourist visa would be B1, B2, like for example this one right here, B2, temporary visitor for pleasure, right? That's a tourist visa. And then I-94 number, which we already talked about what I-94 is, passport number. And then after we're done with that, with the travel, we go to the employment information, where they work, the address, all of that sort of stuff. If they were ever in the immigration proceedings, so if they were ever part of an immigration case. If yes, then you have to say which one: removal, rescission, exclusion, deportation, stuff like that. So hopefully the answer is no for you, but if yes, then you do have to explain what happened. Then we go on information about your beneficiary. If the beneficiary's native written language does not use Roman letters, type or print his or her name and foreign address in their native written language. So for example, let's say if your beneficiary, let's say, is Russian, right? And let's say they have some documents or whatever showing their name in Russian. Now it's very similar to English, but some letters, because it's Cyrillic, it's a little bit different. So that's where you will put it, right? In that language, in Russian language. Just an example. Now, other information. Have you ever previously filed a petition for this beneficiary or any other alien? If you did and it was denied, this is where you explain the reasons. Other information, goes, so let's see, if you're also submitting separate petitions for other relatives, provide the names of your relatives here. So let's say if you're doing this for your mom and you are also separately doing one for your father, you would need to put your father's petition here. Makes sense. Okay, now the petitioner statement, contact information, declaration, and signature is where basically you say that I can read, understand English, and if I don't, then this is my interpreter. That I provide or authorize all the information contained in and submitted with my petition, that everything is true, that I'm not lying, everything is real, all of that stuff. Date, you can type in date here, but obviously you cannot sign. So again, make a note of this page. Whenever you print it out, you'll have to definitely sign. Now, again, if you had an interpreter, make sure to put their contact information here, their mailing address, their contact information, all of that sort of stuff. If you just had a preparer, somebody who helped you prepare this form, physically sit down with you and prepare it or write it for you, because, for example, if you cannot write, disability and stuff like that, you would have to, they would have to put their information here when they prepared it. And that's it. Sign it here. This page right here is the last page for extra stuff, if there is some. Once you're done, print it out. Don't forget to sign. Don't forget to fill up some things that you left not filled. Make sure you have a check ready with that. We already talked where to file, how much it is, what documents you need. Go over those again just to be, kind of on the safe side. Now, for this particular, you don't really need an attorney to do that. As you can see, it is very straightforward. You can do everything yourself. But in case if you do have an attorney, if you did hire an immigration attorney to help you do that, make sure to stay on top of your case, because most of the problems with immigration cases that I've seen were because people would hire immigration attorneys with the hope that immigration attorney is going to do everything for them, and then the case is getting neglected and things go wrong. So make sure that you stay on top of this. This is your case, your immigration process, and if you really follow the instructions, everything will work out just fine. Now, mistakes do happen. Immigration officers, they do make mistakes sometimes. Like I said, there were a lot of cases, my personal situation, my personal experience, getting things with wrong name and stuff like that. It happens. No big deal. You can always fix it. It's really not that big of a deal. Don't get too upset about it. Things happen. But you can avoid most of the time these mistakes if you are very legible, like typing up instead of simply just writing everything on your application. So I really hope that this was helpful for you. If you have any kind of questions, you can definitely let me know in the comments below. In fact, this video I made because I received a lot of questions whenever it comes to the alien relatives and filing the petitions. So your questions, they do guide me to what is my next video is going to be about, what am I going to talk about. So I would really appreciate those questions. They really help me to kind of go along. And if you found this video useful, please subscribe. It's still a growing channel, still a new channel, so every subscriber definitely makes a difference. And thank you for watching.